Hello, A-Push peeps. Today we are gonna quickly cover Herbert Hoover's foreign policy during his term as president. So during Hoover, let's start. Hoover concurred with the prevailing opinion of the American people that the United States should not enter into firm commitments to preserve the security of other nations. Such an opinion in the 1930s would be labeled isolationism. So we talked about this briefly in chapter 24. So Herbert Hoover was a Republican, and most Republicans in that time, and even to a point now, believe in some form of isolationism. We should not help other countries, or another version of this is we should not help other countries if we are dealing with a crisis on the home front ourselves. And under Herbert Hoover, as you know, we are starting to deal with the Great Depression and especially the stock market crash. But we are gonna talk about some of the ways that Herbert Hoover formed foreign policy, his foreign policy style. So, Japanese aggression in Manchuria. In the early 1930s, Japan posed the greatest threat to world peace, defying both the open door policy and the covenant of the League of Nations. Japanese troops marched into Manchuria in September 1931, renamed the territory to Manchukuo, and established a puppet government. Despite its containment to taking action against blatant aggression, the League of Nations did nothing except to pass a resolution condemning Japan and its actions in Manchuria. The Japanese delegation then walked out of the League, never to return. The Manchuria crisis, the League thought, through its failures to take action, showed its inability to maintain peace. Its warnings would never be taken seriously by political aggressors. So Japan walked into a country and sorta took control. That's what a puppet government is. Taking control of a land without permission, basically. So, Japan did that to Manchuria. The League of Nations condemned Japan for doing that. And Japan basically said, I don't have to listen to you, and walked out of the League of Nations, never to return. And this proved that the League of Nations did not really do its job to maintain world peace. The Stimson Doctrine. U.S. response to Japan's violation of the open door policy was somewhat stronger than the League's response, but no more effective in deterring further aggression. Secretary of State Henry Stimson declared in 1932 that the United States would honor its treaty obligations under the Nine-Power Treaty in 1922 by refusing to recognize the legitimacy of any regime like Manchukuo that had been established by force. the League of Nations readily endorsed the Stimson Doctrine and issued similar declaration. So the United States, seen as a big superpower, in those times, even sent out a doctrine saying we don't agree with what Japan just did, and there needs to be some sort of consequence. But same as the League of Nations, they did not take this very seriously either. Latin America. Hoover actively pursued friendly relations with the countries of Latin America. In 1929, even before being inaugurated, the president-elect went on a goodwill tour of the region. As president, he ended the interventionist policies of Taft and Wilson by arranging for U.S. troops to leave Nicaragua and negotiating a treaty with Haiti to remove all U.S. troops by 1934. So Hoover wanted to bring troops home, both in Haiti and Nicaragua in these times. In the next video, we are gonna look at the Franklin Roosevelt policies during this time, and boy, were there many. So come back in the next video and we'll break those down.